Well, good evening. I think we'll get started here. Welcome to the virtual forum for District 10 Aldermanic candidates. Yeah, we have two candidates for the spring election that you'll be meeting in just a minute. Spring election is Tuesday, April 6th. This event is hosted by the Crawford, Marlborough, Nakoma Neighborhood Association, which was formed about 5 years ago, a little more, by a group of neighbors from all three of the neighborhoods, Crawford, Marlborough, and Nakoma. I'm Kevin Pomeroy, the vice president of the board, and Mary Odell is our president. She's online this evening. Rachel Barker is our treasurer. Dennis Comerford is our secretary, and the Zoom guru who's making all this technology happen tonight. Carol Bulow is our gardener extraordinaire. Levon Bennett is our parliamentarian. Marion Hessman is our retired secretary. And Jay Humphreys helps us with construction, things like that. So that's our board, a great group of people. The organization, I'm just going to briefly talk about a few things we've done. We work on issues like traffic patterns and stormwater and neighborhood safety, and we've just installed some new information kiosks. Nakoma Park and at Odana at the bike path there, and Warwick Way and Winona, where there's also a butterfly and pollinator garden that Carol Bulow has been working on with a large group of volunteers for years. And there's some new amenities there, benches, bat house, picnic table. So yeah, go visit that. It's really neat. So we work as a liaison with the city on a variety of topics. We also work with the schools, Cherokee and Thoreau, on food security, and the Madison West High Area Collaborative. And then we've hosted a variety of forums like this through the years. We've had a number of Aldermanic forums, and on salt issues, on our streets and sidewalks, and one on Lake Wingra, and all about butterflies and streets and recycling and forestry. So we certainly need volunteers and board members. If you're interested, those of you attending, you can contact us on our email, info@cmnna.org. So yeah, we encourage you to do that. Our moderator this evening is Chali Pittman. She's the News, Talk, and Public Affairs Director at WORT-FM, a nonprofit community radio station here in Madison. In that capacity, she corrals all the volunteers and heads up the news and talk shows that are heard on WORT. Chali and the two candidates will be unmuted during their discussion. All the rest of us will be muted. And then we're going to have a Q&A following some of the initial remarks and some questions that have already been submitted. And then people will be unmuted during that. So with that, I will turn it over to Chali, and I'll stop talking. And thanks for being our moderator.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Kevin, and the Crawford, Marlborough, Nakoma Neighborhood Association. Boy, that's a mouthful, but yeah. Really, thank you so much. And welcome to everyone watching, and thank you for making time on a Monday night. And thank you to the candidates for making time also on a Monday night. Now, we've chatted before. We've had our own debate at WORT, so I'm somewhat familiar with the candidates, but I can't wait to learn and hear more. Our candidates are Yannette Cole and Mara Eisch, who are both running for District 10 on the Madison Common Council. One of them, come April 6th, will replace outgoing Alder Zachary Hennick, who is not running for re-election. So normally I'm a fan of introducing people, and I have your bios here, but I thought we might be able to do something a little different and have the candidates introduce themselves in their own words, since that tells us so much about their values and priorities and what they'd like to highlight. So candidates, would you be willing to introduce yourselves? Okay, as for order, I have a number between 0 and 10, and whoever gets it closest will go first. So guesses?
4.
Sorry, Yannette, I can't hear you.
7.
Okay, and my number was 8. So Yannette will go first. I don't know if we are setting time limits here, but let's shoot for about 3 minutes to introduce yourself to our watchers.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Chali, for hosting, and thank you to the CMNA. I'm not going to say that the CMNA too for setting this up for us. Thank you, Mara, for joining us. I really appreciate it. My name is Yannette Figueroa Cole. I am from Puerto Rico, but I have been in Madison for almost 30 years. So I am one of those people that has that dual home world. Always a Puerto Rican, but also a Madisonian. I have been on District 10 for almost 25 years. I love my neighborhood. I live off Dons Marsh neighborhood area, and I love the city of Madison. I work on the east side for a Johnson & Johnson company as we do medical devices, and I work as their system administrator, data analyst, and process mapping specialist. And on the civic side, I am involved with a couple of organizations helping people that are experiencing homelessness. So I have worked with the Friends of State Street Families and the Beacon for a few years now, 4 or 6 years, something like that. I don't know. It's time really it has gone very fast. I also have served on the Dons Marsh Neighborhood Association as their president at some point, their treasurer, the website manager, just whatever capacity I have been able to, they needed the help and I have been able to help them. The reason I'm running for city council is inspired by the events of 2020 and the COVID-19 impact in our communities. We have a crisis in our hands, a health crisis in our hands right now, and 2020 has also put a bigger light on the issues of racial disparities, especially the racial disparities in our own community and in District 10. So 2021 is the year to have leadership and to have people in power taking lessons of 2020 and turning them into social justice changes that will serve and benefit the entire community of Madison. So really that's my main motivation. I want to make sure that we have healthy communities, and healthy communities are in turn safety communities. By lifting one neighborhood, we lift the entire district and the entire city. I want to work on a budget that makes sure takes care of people's basic needs, and I want to continue to use my collaborative skills to bring people together at the city council level, nonprofit organizations, the county, the state, to just work together to put all the resources in one place and make sure that people's basic needs are met. Thank you.
Thank you, Yannette. All right, next up we have Dr. Mara Eisch, who has about 3 minutes to tell us about herself.
Okay, thank you very much, Crawford, Monroe, Nakoma neighborhood, for making this forum possible. And Yannette, thank you. Without you, we couldn't have a forum either. I moved to Madison in late August 2001, just before 9/11. And I moved here with my youngest son so that he could attend Wingra School. It was the best move that I made for both of us. Today, I look like an accomplished professional. However, I didn't start out that way. I'm a retired clinical associate professor of nursing from UW and nursing faculty retired from MATC. I began my nursing education with an associate degree at Fox Valley Technical College as a 23-year-old widow with 3 young children. I was a first-generation college graduate. I moved my sons to Milwaukee to obtain a bachelor's in nursing from Alverno College. And if you know anything about Alverno College, you know that it prepares women to problem solve and communicate. I earned a master's degree from UW Oshkosh in nursing education and a doctorate in nursing practice from Minnesota State Moorhead with an emphasis on older adult falls in the community. So I bring many skills from my role as nurse and as educator. My past or current other public positions I've had is I work very hard with my neighborhood association. I currently serve as treasurer. I've been the nominations committee, garage sale committee, and very involved in getting the neighborhood involved in new development in our neighborhood. But I want to focus on the fact that as a nurse, I've developed many skills in assessment, which is data gathering, communication, and problem solving. And I've used them in many different contexts with many different patients to facilitate achieving client goals. I want to point out that I said the client's goals, not my goals. This is important because I am running for Alder not on one issue and not for one group, but rather to facilitate and advocate that residents of District 10 are not just heard, but that they're listened to at all levels of city government, not just the Common Council. I'm a big picture systems thinker and believe the work is in the details to facilitate the issues that face us today. Tonight, I look forward to answering your questions and how we might move forward in resolving them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Eisch. And I do want to let people know, it sounds like we'll be taking questions in the latter half of this hour, but feel free to pop them in the chat whenever, if that's possible. And we will get to your questions, or we can wait till the Q&A. Kevin, it's up to you. So my first question is about COVID-19. It's presently on our minds. We are doing this virtually. We are seeing vaccinations make their way out into the populace. We're seeing case numbers go down slowly, but not disappear. Madison Public Health, Dane County Madison Public Health is gradually relaxing restrictions for businesses and gatherings. But I wanted to ask you two, since you both work in the medical or health profession industry, what you would want to see for reopening, when you think businesses and gatherings should reopen, and what standards and metrics we would need to see, and if there's anything else that the city needs to think about in reopening. So that's a big question.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with Dr. Mara Eisch. You have the floor.
Thank you. That is a big question. The reopening of the city is fortunately going to be happening spring going into summer, when we're going to have a lot more outdoor activities. We can certainly control spread much easier. I think one of our first jobs is facilitating the vaccination of as many people as possible, all of those that want it for sure. That's going to be a major impact on the number of cases that we have. I think opening has to happen as the cases stay down. We're not going to be at zero. And then we need to set numbers for when we need to back up. I don't know what those metrics are. I need to work with public health to know what those metrics are. But I think we need to have something as a metric that says, oh, we've gone too far, we need to back up. When can we open up again? These are going to become important for schools. I mean, how many players on a sporting team need to be positive before we back up and say, oh, that's too many, we need to cancel the next game? It isn't going to be popular. But if we wear our masks, wash our hands, maintain social distance as much as possible, we will be able to control the transmission and open up.
Thank you for that answer. We do have a Dane County phased reopening plan, and some elementary school teachers are headed back to in-person instruction starting tomorrow. Yannette Figueroa, you now have 3 minutes.
So yes, COVID is in, I'm sorry, I'm hearing background, so I don't know if that's me or, COVID, it's at the center stage for everything these days. So it is the one single issue that is being handled all the way from the federal level to the state to the city level. So I think we are on the right path finally on getting somewhat better organized to get the vaccine out and to get it to the people. We still have work to do in order to provide more access to the vaccine at a larger scale. I think I understand the health department is working and opening places like the Coliseum, or just to make sure that we have like bigger drives and get the vaccine going. So I think that is a good thing. I think they have been focused a lot on getting the vaccine on a way that is equitable and takes care of the people that needs it the most, like the people frontline workers, people on the categories that are more impacted by the vaccine. They need to continue to put those efforts in place, and they need to continue to improve on that, because we want to make sure that the populations that are more at risk are taken care of first. We need to, one thing that I've seen some videos online of them trying to put a campaign out there to educate people. I've seen the videos in multiple languages. I've seen leaders in the community participating on these videos. We really need to reinforce that, to make this education campaign the center of the vaccination process, because we need to get vaccinated. We need a large amount of people to get vaccinated in order for us to really go back to the new norm, whatever that might be. So I think in the education part, we need more access to that, more visibility. We need to use like the neighborhood healthcare workers that already have established relationships with the neighbors, and train them and educate them so they can pass the word and they can have people trust the vaccine. We know that communities of color are more hesitant to take the vaccine, and now we have that actually has moved into the political arena too. So depending on what political party, again, we also have hesitance on that. So to me, the main focus should be getting the vaccine out. Having said that, having talked about essential workers, I really think teachers are essential workers. We need to also focus on getting their teachers back, ready to go back to school and get the kids on school. I understand that there's a lot of complications adapting old buildings like the ones we have here in Madison to meet new standards, and I don't know the solutions for that. I know it's costly. I know there's a lot of money that needs to be spent on it, but we need to really try to prioritize how to get the schools open in the safest possible way. When it comes to businesses, the same. We have put programs in place. Again, we have funding coming from the federal government that is not reaching all the small business owners. The city council put something in place to make sure that it target minority communities so they can also thrive, and that money flows not just in the downtown area, but it flows outside of the downtown area. So there's so many things that we can be doing, and I don't have specific plans on it, but I've been following up some of the things that I just talked about. And again, to me, the priority is getting people vaccinated. And for that, we need to educate them, and we need to gain their trust to get the vaccine rollout.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you both for your answers to that. I see that the chat is heating up, which is great. Thank you. Keep those questions coming. I do want to turn to something that I know not everyone will get riled up about to hear, but it is related to COVID-19. I want to talk about budgeting, and I know that's not the most fascinating thing. But last fall, the council passed a budget that Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway characterized as painful. Yannette, you mentioned participatory budgeting among your top issues on your website. And Mara, you mentioned that fiscal responsibility, controlling the budget, and rising city debt, which diverts money from neighborhood city programs, is important. So I want to ask you both how you would approach the budget. Let's start with and explain participatory budgeting to us.
So me, right? Okay. So I I think the mayor is right. It's going to be a painful budget. And look, it is what it is. We're in the middle of a pandemic. So a budget should reflect the city's priorities and city's values. So at this moment, the single priority that we have is dealing with COVID-19. We need to ensure that people are vaccinated, that the moratorium stays in place, that people do not lose their homes, that we don't continue to add the burden to the people experiencing homelessness. We have to ensure that people have access to food. We need to ensure that people's basic needs are met. I understand that we need to have fiscal responsibility. However, we are in the middle of a pandemic, and that pandemic is causing lives to be lost in every area of our city. So we need to have a budget where the community, that's the participatory portion of this idea, where the community has an input on it, what the services that the community needs are being taken care of. That's what we mean by that. We mean a budget that focuses on basic needs, that focuses on the community, that invests on us so we can not just survive but thrive. And again, I get it that it's going to be a tight budget. There's many decisions to be made, but the priority should be the priority of the city, and that is health. We need to take care of our people, their mental health, their housing, their food securities, those simple things that we all should have by default. So, I mean, I totally agree it's going to be hard, but my priority is the priority of the city residents, and that is dealing with this pandemic.
Okay, thank you for that answer, Dr. Eisch.
That's a great question. And yes, I have been looking at concerns over the budget. Since 1915, our debt service as a share of the general fund has gone up from 14% to 17%. That's a 6-year period where we didn't have COVID, but we did increase our debt. Now we're paying interest on this percentage of debt. 3% doesn't sound like much, but it's equivalent of $10 million. Where wouldn't we love to have an extra $10 million today to spend on COVID, or the opportunity to increase from 14 to 17% because we're in this situation? So I think we're going to have to make some tough choices. I think there are some things in our planning that may have to wait, because I agree, the management of the pandemic, supporting individuals in terms of rent and food, have to be a priority. But also we have to have mechanisms to help the businesses stay afloat. And we're not going to save all the businesses. Some are not going to make it. That means we're going to have people with businesses and individuals looking for starting over. How are we going to help them start over, find new jobs? People that own businesses, good entrepreneurs, how are we going to support them starting off on a different entrepreneurial route if that's their choice? I don't think we can raise this deficit service amount that we're paying another 2 or 3% just because of COVID. The taxpayers can't carry that burden. The projection for 22, 23, and 24 continue to be between 17 and 16.8%. There's no coming down in the future plan. We need to get this under control so that we do have the money to spend in the area and programs that we want to.
Okay, thank you for answering the questions, and for listeners for sticking through a budget question. So the next question is a hot button issue. In the last year, we've seen a lot of talking and considering how we approach policing. The City Council has created a civilian oversight board and an independent police monitor position, which they're still working on filling. We have a new chief of police, Sean Barnes. Alders have also, in the last year, limited how much the Madison Police Department can receive from the federal military surplus program. There is a proposal effectively shelved involving banning the use of tear gas. There's a subcommittee that recommended body cameras. I'm just listing some things because we'll get to them. And of course, there is a mental health ambulance pilot program. So in our past debate, we asked, how do you feel about policing? Instead, I'd like to get a little more fine grain on that. So one of our watchers asks, first, what do you interpret the phrase defund the police to mean, and what is your position on it? And I think that's a good place to start. I'm trying to remember who we started with last time.
I think I go first this time.
All right, Dr. Eisch, my apologies. You can go ahead.
It's unfortunate that the term is defund the police because people have had such emotional reactions to that word. But to me, it's taking money from the police budget to fund other projects. And one of them has been the mental health response team. It seems unfortunate to me that we can't have both of these and that we put them in competition with each other for the funds. I think we all know we need the mental health team. We need to not have our police spending as 40 hours a day within the department with mental health issues, mostly waiting with patients to get care. So it makes great sense that we have the mental health response team. What we'll have to think about is as we expand that program, and I anticipate that we will, we're only going to be doing a pilot study only noon through 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. Where are we going to get those funds? I don't think we can continue to take from the police budget. We're understaffed with police as it is. We do have issues. There are national issues in terms of policing that we need to address, but I think taking police off of the streets is not the answer. Safety is a number one concern in District 10 from people that I speak to. So we need to fund the police at the number of police that the reports that we've had, like every other year report on what the police staffing should be. We need to fund the police, we need to fund the mental health, and we need to build a relationship in the community, in the neighborhoods, with the police that are working there.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Yannette Figueroa-Cole.
Yes. So again, defunding the police is just a catchphrase that that is being twisted and turned into this division among people. But it just simply means reallocation of funds. It's just that is all it means to me. It's just a reallocation of funds to be placed where they need to be. The police is not prepared, is not educated enough to manage mental health crisis. So they shouldn't get a budget that includes mental health crisis. That money should be used to fund the Cahoots project, which is what we just heard. And I agree with that. The police is not, there's so many tasks that we are currently depending on the police on that they shouldn't be in charge of doing. They should be doing their job, which is solving crimes and, keeping us safe. But there's every time that they don't know. It's just like the police is the first line of defense to everything in some people's minds. We need to reduce for example, we need to stop finding people for things that are really unnecessary. Like one perfect example, I'm Puerto Rican, okay? So we Puerto Ricans are loud people. That's just by nature, and I don't want to stereotype, but hey, I'm Puerto Rican, so I'm going to say it. We are loud people. We talk with our hands. We like to play our loud music. We are loud people. So to turn those kinds of things into offenses that actually makes jail time and makes police interaction, turns those things into disturbing the peace, which are used mostly in against communities of color. It is really increasing a usage of police that is not necessary. We need to change our laws and to make sure that the police has the training and the background to be able to deal with all different cultures, to have had the cultural knowledge to deal with people. And we need to start decriminalizing things that shouldn't be criminalized. And that would reduce the need for policing in so many instances. For another example is the situation with marijuana, which we just changed that. We just changed the law to allow a small percentage of marijuana to be used in a private setting. That again, removing the police from things that they shouldn't be policed in the first place. When it comes to what we were just talking on the prior question, when it comes to a budget, that's right there a place where I will definitely examine. Why do we need body cameras when we need to fund more mental health at this time? So when we're going to be talking about fiscal responsibility, we can just be talking two sides of the mouth here. We have to actually say fiscal responsibility or not. We cannot just continue to throw our budget into the police hands and not take care of mental health crisis or not take care of the people. So I am all for safety. And again, that is a word that really, it just makes my head spin. Safety doesn't mean policing. There's many, many, many ways to achieve safety. A healthy community is a safe community. If you give people the resources they need to thrive, you have a safe community. If you give kids the programming that they need to stay occupied, you're going to have kids thriving, and you're going to have kids staying away from trouble. If you give people satisfy the people's needs for healthy choices for food or whatever, you are not going to have people stealing food. We need to police less and take care of our people more. So again, I really had to call out this idea that people want safety and it comes from one source. We all want safety, but it doesn't have to come from just the police. We can accomplish that from the health perspective and accomplish the same result.
Okay. Thank you both for that answer. I do just want to stick with policing for a few moments longer. Let's try to cap our responses to 1 minute to these questions. Starting with Yannette, who was moving.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Do you think our police officers should be equipped with body-worn cameras? Why or why not? Yannette?
I think the body-worn cameras is a decision for the community to decide if their police department should have that, but honestly, not the entire community. I think it should be decided by the people that will be impacted the most by those cameras. So having said that, there's tons of research out there that details how these cameras are ineffective. I mean, we have camera coverage for years, and the main purpose of having body cameras is to enforce accountability, and that hasn't happened yet. So I am not going to discuss the research. I just laser focus on the budget. How much money is going to cost for Madison to have body cameras in every single police officer in the city? Right now, we're trying to get money for a pilot, but nobody has been able to answer how much money, if the pilot is successful, how much money, how many thousands of dollars per year is this going to cost us to maintain the body cameras, to have the space for the body cameras for the data that, how much money? To me, that's at the end of the day is how much money are we going to be taking out of the budget every single year from now on to maintain every body camera in the city of Madison.
So that's 1 minute. I didn't quite hear a yes or a no. If it comes to the Madison Common Council, yes or no?
At this moment, my priority is health, and that will be no. And that committee didn't provide an itemized number of how much money that was going to be over the years. So my answer, if I were to vote on that right now, it would be absolutely no.
Okay. Thank you for that answer.
Mhm.
Dr. Mara Eisch, same question to you, and please also include yes or no in your answer.
Okay, right now, Madison is one of the few communities that does not have body-worn cameras. Our committee that studied this did a spectacular job looking at the social science literature, both the pros and the cons. And while there was some evidence of its efficacy, there was also strong evidence in support of it. Our police department would like to have the body-worn cameras. The cameras that go on with phones at the scene of an incident go on when an altercation begins. With the police body cameras, the cameras are on all the way through the event. So that's a positive. We have in the budget money to study body-worn cameras in the North District. Once that study is complete, we will then know, is there a benefit for Madison? I don't want to say, yes, we should have them, or no, we shouldn't have them, until I see that data. If in
Okay.
fact we determine that there is a benefit, that there is no reason we have to fund the entire department in 1 year.
So how would you vote right now if it came to you right now?
If I had to decide today,
Mhm.
I would vote yes.
Thank you
Our
both
police
for that
department
answer.
wants it, so I would support it.
Okay. Thank you both. All right, let's move on to something that is not so heavy. A high frequency, high capacity rapid transit system is coming to Madison. It's in the works. It's called the Bus Rapid Transit System, and it takes a large investment from the city. As Catherine asked in the chat, do you think our city needs bus rapid transit? And can you explain your answer? I believe we will start with Dr. Eisch.
Okay. You know, as I have learned about the bus rapid transit, it's really a change in how we think about moving people around the city. And we're going to move people to a main system to move them up and down the corridor in a more efficient manner. I get that. However, the cost at this time is certainly someplace that we could postpone spending to divert some of those funds to other priorities within the city. And I'm saying this because I think we need to look at how well these electric battery operated buses work. Minneapolis is curtailing their service because the batteries don't last in cold weather. Why can't we learn from their mistakes? I know that people have concerns about the loading being in the center of the road. I think that could work. It's going to take a rethinking on our part so that we're not running into traffic to go catch the bus because we know another one will be coming. So I think there's a lot more that needs to be, I need to learn about in terms of the rapid bus transit. And that is definitely some place where I would look at, do we have to move as fast as we are?
Okay. Yannette Cole, your response.
Yes, I think that is absolutely a topic that is currently, I mean, I've been participating in a few of those meetings, and I'm learning a lot about how the whole transit works. But in general, my main, so I mean, I do have a lot more to learn, and that's okay. But my perspective thus far is transit is really, when you really think about it, transit is kind of at the heart of everything. We are a growing city that is spending tons of money on developments, having housing in every corner of the city. We are a city that has a lot of, again, racial disparities and inequalities. And transit is the freedom that takes people from point A to point B. Transit is the thing that takes you from home to work, that takes you to the supermarket, that takes you to your doctors. So it is a very, very important part of taking care of your people and taking care of your community and taking care of your basic needs. So it is, I mean, I think it is necessary there's two projects going on at the same time, the rapid transit and the revamping of the routes to make it more effective. So I think they're both important, and we cannot we cannot continue to progress on the route that we are going of expanding without having a solid transit system in place. Not to mention the benefits of using transit versus personal vehicles, that the benefits that has in the environment and in our lakes. So again, transit is really at the core of everything. So from that perspective, I mean, I do have a lot to learn, but it will be hard for me to say we should not invest on that.
Okay, thank you both for that answer. So this is a variation of a watcher submitted question. On the same ballot that both of you will be on in April 6th, there is an advisory referendum asking if the structure of the Madison Common Council should be rethought, restructured. It comes out of a task force on the structure of Madison's city government. It's called TFOGS. The advisory referendum asks if the council should be reduced by half its members, down to 10, if those members should be paid a full-time $70,000 salary, as opposed to the very part-time salary alders receive now. It asks if the term should be lengthened from 2 to 4 years, and if there should be a term limit for alders of 2 4-year terms. So I believe 8 years in total. What are your thoughts on the TFOG's recommendations on the advisory referendum? Let's start with Yannette Cole.
Yes. So the TFOGs, they are working on this and even much more than that. I mean, they're working on ways to make the city council more accessible to people. So they have great ideas on how to make that happen. But when it comes to this specific question, and the way that you phrased it, you're the first one who phrased it with all those details. There's a lot of good things about that idea, but then there's also things. I mean, I have heard both sides of the story on this, and I haven't formulated a personal opinion, to be honest with you. I'm actually looking forward to the referendum and to see what people think. What are the people's thoughts about it? But at the end of the day, the one concern I have is with representation. We have over 20 people of color running on this election this year, and I am. And it's one of the most amazing things to see in Madison in the 30 years I've been here. So I really, whatever route we take on this regard, I really want to make sure that representation doesn't get impacted, that people can actually make it to the table and represent their cities and represent the people that they are there for. So if representation is impacted, if we're going to make these elections even more expensive and they're not going to be funded or whatever, then it will be hard for me to say yes to less people. But I really want to hear what the people have to say. I really want to hear the entire concept and then bring it back to the community and decide together what the best option will be. When it comes to the 2 to 4 years and the limits, the limit for sure. We shouldn't have people serving there 15 years or more. I am not running here to be a politician. I'm running because there's a need right now that needs to be served. But I want people that look at me and say, oh, look at that person, that Puerto Rican person that came here with nothing and managed to get all the way to the city council and make change. I want people like me to say, I can also do that. So I want to make sure that I do my time, and whatever time that might be, and that other people get inspired to take that seat when they're ready. I don't need to be there for 15, 20 years just taking other people's places. So for that, I would say yes, the limits should be imposed. But for the size of the council, honestly, I don't know at this moment.
Okay. Still haven't decided how you're voting. Okay.
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I want to see what the people have to say about that. I'm curious to know how they feel. people had asked me on the street and they have their opinions and I'm listening to them, but I personally don't, I could go either way. I just want to hear what the people have to say.
Yeah. And I did make a mistake. My apologies, Brooke. Thank you for correcting me. We have to do another story on this, but I believe it is a longer term limit than that. Dr. Eisch, where do you stand on TFOGs?
Okay, my at this time position is no, not to support this kind of change. And that's for many reasons. I feel right now that neighborhoods are really losing their voice at city government. The amount of development going on in neighborhoods that neighborhoods want input to and are not getting is just incredible. Our city is changing at an incredibly fast rate. And we need the neighborhoods, well, perhaps we need to think about what we want neighborhoods to be. Do we want a neighborhood voice at city council? Do we want neighborhoods to still have the culture and feel that they currently have? Or do we want that to change? Who's going to leave their job for 4 years or 12 years to take on a role as Alder? Who are we encouraging? Who are we eliminating as possible candidates for office? The other problem I have with this is that we will have, our districts will be double the size. So rather than District 10 having roughly 12,000 people that have an Alder that represents them, we could have 24,000. That puts the Alder further away from being connected with the community that they are representing, and puts access to that person also further away. So I don't see any real benefits at this point. And in fact, the committee did not think this would pass on. That's why it's an advisory referendum. It will be very interesting to see what the community feels regarding this referendum. I hope we get a big turnout so we get a very good representative of what the city feels, because we need that direction. We need to know how the city feels. But currently, my position right now would be no.
Okay, thank you both for that answer. We did have a question submitted before this debate. I do just want to check in on time. Kevin, are you there? We doing all right?
Yeah, we're fine on time.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you.
Yeah, 7:15 was our allotted time, but if we need to go over a bit, that's certainly okay as well.
Okay.
I don't know if there's sufficient questions.
Great. Yeah, I did just want to ask this one. Affordable housing is a complex topic. Not a lot of people even know what it means. We just did a story about it today. But I'm wondering if you could describe what you think needs to be done to increase affordable housing for your residents and constituents if elected. And we have a question on your position on proposed revisions to the MGO, the Madison General Ordinances, that would increase allowable densities and decrease conditional use thresholds in certain multifamily residential mixed use and commercial districts. Those are two questions kind of side by side, but your thoughts on affordable housing and this very specific question second. I believe we will start with
Me.
Dr. Eisch. Yep, had to cross Yannette off. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so first regarding the ordinance change, I am not in support of this ordinance change. It would allow developers who already have the ear of the city staff and the planning commission much before any neighborhood is involved to just be able to build. Now, in my neighborhood in Summit Woods, 4606 Hammersley was an example that was used at the presentation. There was great neighborhood pushback with that development. We wanted development for the mixed use or the missing middle population. We wanted something that would serve families. We want families in our neighborhood. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't want single people, but to build a 53-unit complex on a lot that is smaller than my lot, and 28 of those units are studio, we know what population is being served. So that's, to take the neighborhood out of that decision-making, I don't agree with. There was great testimony at the last public hearing about projects where neighborhood input actually created better outcomes. So I think that neighborhood input has to happen. I wish in my neighborhood, I would have thought of us buying that property, hiring someone to build townhouses or condos, and then sell them and let them be their own condo association. That would have brought families into our neighborhood that we wanted to have there. Affordable housing. Affordable housing means something different when we're looking at people who are making 30% of the area median income versus 60% of the area median income. And we like to group them all together and say, you know, this is what we're going to do. My problem with that is it's like giving the same antibiotic to every infection. There are different needs at in each population group. There are different needs for the family that is making 30% of the mean area income, what their needs are and what they're able to handle versus somebody who is making 60. So we need to have housing available for all of those levels, but we need to be looking at those needs differently. Madison has a 47% owner occupancy rate. I find that to be deplorable. Why aren't some of the buildings that are going up condos? Some ownership that people can participate and be members within their community. One of the reasons is there's no money to be made in that, not in comparison to having a 53-unit building with a high density, with 28 of those units being studio. There's great money to be made there. I don't think we can count on developers to meet our housing needs for our 30 and 60% of median income population. That is something as a city we're going to have to take on our own.
Okay. Yannette Cole, your answer.
Yes, so this is another topic that of great interest for me. So I also been following up their meetings and their forums and learning a lot about zoning more than any other nerd would care. But I'm kind of a nerdy person, so I'm enjoying the whole topic of zoning a lot, I must say. Based on what I understand from these meetings, the purpose of that, one of the main purposes of that change is to actually open space for family housing, is to make it easier to build family houses, to build townhouses, to open the doors to smaller developers like women and people of color to actually build those locations, because perhaps those people, the people that are currently building those high rises are not interested, like Mara just said, on making that little money on these smaller projects. But yet we can open the doors to smaller companies to actually build the projects. So I don't have all the answers. I don't know what the final decision will be on this ordinance, but I think to use fear to imply that the community, that the neighborhood's voices are being taken away is really just being blunt, a little bit of a lazy way out instead of actually going for and trying to really understand the whole vast information that is related to this particular topic. I think the ordinance is really trying to, again, to look at the city of Madison from the lens of equity and try to build more housing for families. And who will say no to that? So there's more to come. There's going to be another forum coming up at the end of the month. And then it's going to go to the city council, where the neighborhoods and the communities can actually go and raise their voice and vote against it or in favor of it. So it's not like they're not going to have a voice. But there's a larger scope on this change, in addition to the community not being able to put an input on this construction. It's not just about that. I came here in 1991, and Madison community welcomed me. They welcomed this Puerto Rican person who looks a lot like what I'm looking at the screen right now. So that helped, okay? That really helped. That let's be real. Until I opened my mouth and the accent came out, then maybe she's not one of us. But yet there was people that welcomed me. I was welcome into these neighborhoods. Is District 10 going to be the district that is going to actually embrace families that come from different backgrounds, from different economic structures, from people that may have different needs? Or are we going to continue to fight to keep those people out, when the reality is that the city is growing and it will continue to grow? We need housing for the people that are here, and we need housing for the people that are continue to come into the city. There's no other way around this. We need to really look at ourselves and figure out what is it exactly, what values are we representing? And so this particular discussion about the zoning, really, there's a lot of facets to it, and we should take the time to educate ourselves, go to the meetings, ask your questions, and see it from a broader perspective, not just cling to the one issue about the neighborhood losing their voice. I don't think that is a fair assessment. We have a group of staff, a group of people at the city staff that are super smart and work very hard, and they're not doing this they're not making these changes to aggravate the neighbors. They're looking at this from the equity lens, and I really appreciate that. So I don't know, I don't have all the details on this. I don't have all the knowledge on the world about it, but I'm still learning, and I'm focused on learning more about it so I can make solid decisions based on what is best for the entire community.
Thank you both for substantive answers to that question. I know it's one people care about deeply. So I have two remaining questions. We are right at 8 o'clock, so thank you to everyone who has stuck with us. I have two brief questions for you, and then we will turn it over back to Kevin. The first question, let me pull up my notes. My first question is, being an alder is a lot of constituent work, and just listening to the people in your district. How do you intend to listen to the residents in your district, the people living in your district, and how do you intend to represent them through office hours, through whatever, if you are elected? Let's start with Yannette Cole. Briefly, 1 or 2 minutes.
So that's where the TFOX committee comes up. Let's face it, we currently have a problem. We have an issue on having a better connection between the council and their constituents. So looking at the TFOX requirement list, I see a lot of potential there. I mean, there's people today that do office hours by having a Zoom open line for a couple hours a week. There's this potential capability of having people voting via text, or getting notifications via text. I mean, technology is a powerful thing, and we have not been using it to its potential. Now, because of COVID, another thing that we can be grateful about is that we were forced to use Zoom calls and to use all these kind of meetings and having everything recorded and having more participation from the public. So I know that those things will continue to happen, and I am, I have whatever methods, email, phone calls, whatever is necessary to serve the community. That's we will incorporate it with the rest of the TFOX recommendations. Even if the full recommendations don't go through, there's so many good ideas in there that we as alders can implement individually. So I think that
specifically, if you are elected as alder, that you would commit to doing to stay engaged.
Yeah, I mean, I will initially say I will commit to an open block of time on a Zoom, and people can come in, and by email they can reach out through the email. So I am taking this as I would take any serious any job. It's a job, and my job, and that is one of my job requirements, to make sure that I engage with people and that answer their calls and to make myself available to them. So yeah, that is part of this job, and I intend to do it just like I do any other job in my long career. So maybe opening a Zoom call will be one, and emails and phone calls.
Okay. Thank you, Yannette, for answering that.
Mhm.
Dr. Eisch, similar question for you. How will you commit to staying engaged and informed with residents and hearing their concerns and what they're for?
So thank you. I think technology affords us a lot of opportunities to stay connected. First of all, I want to make sure that all city meetings that currently are virtual stay virtual. There's no reason the citizens of Madison should be rushing downtown trying to find a place to park when we know that this hosting meetings virtually is possible. That also means more people can participate. I would connect with the neighborhoods within my district through scheduled Zoom meetings, impromptu Zoom meetings, but also being a presence on their neighborhood websites, attending the neighborhood board meetings, attending neighborhood meetings, attending events within their communities. So having a physical as well as virtual presence within those neighborhoods. I also want to say, if we have future meetings in forums like this, that we have rebuttal periods, because I think in the last question, having the opportunity to say that I didn't use fear to move my position on the ordinance, that was from attending a meeting that was presented by the city. And where I heard, I think we anticipate we might see, those are not measurable words. Those are not measurable benchmarks for a change in the ordinance. I want to see, we will have 30% of the building applications coming through held for small developers.
Okay, the question was, how will you stay engaged with residents?
Right.
If you would like to revisit that topic, I think you can do that during the Q&A.
Okay.
But thank you for that. I wasn't sure if we wanted rebuttal periods or not, so went with that.
Okay, that I know.
So the last question I have for you, and we are trying to stay civil here and respectful toward our candidates, and this isn't intended to be a disrespectful question toward either of you, or you aren't, please don't insult your candidate, but your opponent, but what is the biggest difference between you and your opponent in this race, and why people should vote for you? Like, what is the key issue that you think differentiates yourself? Because that can be really hard in an Alder race, determining what's the difference. So let's start with Dr. Eisch for your answer to that question.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure that Yannette and I are both great people and have our hearts in the right place in terms of being passionate about the issues that we're concerned about. I would say our biggest differences is that I'm not coming in with one single issue or one single population that I think needs more representation than others. I'm coming in with the idea of being a problem solver, gathering facts, listening, and then representing the positions of those in my district. So I think my attention to a broader perspective of issues, a broader perspective of how we're going to move through that. For example, if I can give one, I think we both agree on the mental health cahoots response team, and I think that's great. But look, I'm going to be looking at data in terms of the 121,000 mental health calls that happened over 2018, 2019. I don't think we had 121,000 people, different people that had mental health issues. So I want to ask questions like, how many of them were repeat calls? Are the interventions we're providing after the first intervention are working? So rather than throwing good money after bad, let's look at where are the breaks in meeting the goals that we're setting for ourselves in terms of providing service for all of our constituents. And so I would see that as that big picture problem-solving piece as the biggest difference.
Okay, thank you for answering that question. That was about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. Yannette Cole, same question to you.
So I have a, I mean, I would disagree. I don't think I am a one single issue person. But again, 2020, it seems like, just happened. And 2020, not just in the Madison area, not just in the United States, but globally, has shown the disparities that we have among our communities. I just don't understand what is so hard to visualize that helping people, raising people up and helping them thrive just makes all of us better. Like all of us. It's not just about helping the Black community or the Latinx community or the Native community or the immigrant community. It's just helping people that need it the most. I am not running. I don't need anything. I don't need anything. I am running because I see that over the past few years, I've been able to collaborate with other people to get the resources that they needed to live a better life. Now, why not bring that to the table, to a table that gives me a larger scope to do so, to collaborate with more people, to get our people healthier? Why every single, we are like a puzzle in the whole, on this city. A missing piece of this puzzle impacts all of us. We need to put this city back together, and we need to make this city the best city to live for everybody. It's not a secret that this is the best city to live if you're white. I mean, that is not a secret. That's just the way it is. And we shouldn't be in 2021 explaining that to people. I mean, that is, I struggle trying to understand why that is not, we don't have a clear vision on that. So yes, I'm not going to apologize to say that representation is required and needed, because it is. We have been represented in so many other aspects. It has taken us so many years to be represented in so many aspects of our lives, and representation matters. It impacts my nieces, my nephews, impacts the next generation to see themselves in us, fulfilling roles that are relevant to where people make decisions to help other people be better. So I have obviously a way better understanding of the institutionalized racism that we have on this country, and we definitely need policies in place to break the barriers that these old policies that are currently doing as they're supposed to do today being taken down. We need to dismantle the policies that only causes barriers and keeps people out of the benefits that they should be getting. So I'm not asking to give a better life to the BIPOC community. I'm asking to remove the barriers that are put in there for them to thrive just like I thrive. Like those barriers didn't impact me, but impacts many other people, and they happen to be people of color because they're designed to do so. So we do need legislation. We do need to legislate our way out of this situation. We need to stop with all the talking, and we need to really put into action what we know is right. We have a racist system, a racist judicial system. We need to break that down, and we need to make it better for all. And by making it better for the people that need it the most, we all benefit from it.
Thank you both for answering so many questions this evening. We are probably way past our time. It is 8:11 p.m. I want to thank Yannette Figueroa Cole and Dr. Mara Eisch for answering these questions. I want to thank the Crawford Marlborough Nakoma Neighborhood Association for asking me to moderate. And I see that this video will be posted later later this week on their website. On their website, you can also find links to the candidate websites and social media profiles. I will add, if I can do a quick plug, that WORT also did their own candidate debate with these two candidates. You can find that online at wordfm.org. Just click on the thing that says Spring 2021 election. Thank you all so much.
I'd like to thank you all. Thank you, Chali, for moderating, and yeah, I'd like to thank the candidates on behalf of the Crawford, Marlborough, Nakoma Neighborhood Association. And as has been said, cmnna.org is where we will post the video in just a few days. So thanks again, and I guess we'll sign out. It's about, it's not quite 8:15, but a couple of minutes.
Well, thank you for having us. I really appreciate the forum.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it was very informative.
Thank you, Kevin.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.